Let's move on to the transfer news. So, look, respectfully, we are going to talk about Onana and we are going to talk about Rasmus Højlund. And some interesting stuff around the Mason Mount deal as well. But look, there is absolutely no doubt that Manchester United have signed Mason Mount for £55 million. There is absolutely no doubt that we're in talks with Onana. What is going to happen with David De Gea? What is going to happen with Onana? And are we going to bid for Rasmus Højlund? Yes, is the answer. We will bid for Rasmus Højlund. He is the most standout target for a striker. We cannot get Harry Kane. We cannot afford Victor Osimhen. And really, it leaves Erik ten Hag in a situation where he goes for Mawani or Højlund. And the feeling at United is that although Mawani might be more ready now, Højlund will be the better player in a year or two and suits what Ten Hag wants. So United will bid for Rasmus Højlund. I've said this for weeks, hotter than the sun. This is the deal that they want to do. Spoke to a couple of people this morning about this, and yes, it is still the number one target for a striker that is attainable and gettable. The problem Man United have got is that, and people won't like this, is that they are now looking at a goalkeeper and a striker and nothing else. Not a centre-back, not a holding midfielder. That's what they're looking at. Can they afford Onana and the striker? Because their budget at the moment, whether people like it or not, is limited in the sense that I think we will spend £200 million, but I think some of the money won't get spent till August. I think what we spend before the tour is about, can we afford Onana and a striker? Because we've sold nobody. We've sold nobody. So our budget at the moment is around 120 million quid. Well, if you take Mason Mount off, however that's being done, is it 55 up front? Is it instalments? If it's instalments, we might be paying 30 now, which means we've got 90 left to get a goalkeeper and a striker, which we can do in instalments as well. If it's 55 million up front, we've got about 60 left, in which case we need to do Onana in instalments and Højlund in instalments. So United at the moment are focused on a goalkeeper and a striker. That is it. Nothing else is happening because we don't have the budget to do anything else. We might have later in the summer if we sell some players, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And with the cash shortage, do you think it would make more sense to buy a goalkeeper, a centre-back and a CDM and take João Felix on loan, says Charlie? Is he available on loan? If João Felix is available on loan, I think we should be all over that. Mount arriving, does this end Erik ten Hag's obsession with Frenkie de Jong, or will he try to get him as well, says Dan? Well, look, the thing about Frenkie de Jong is we can't afford Frenkie de Jong. We can't afford Caicedo. And I want to bring that in. You've just reminded me. Caicedo, concede no. Everybody's got to agree with me. Everyone's got to agree with the people in the chat. We were never in for Caicedo. Fabrizio confirmed it last night. We were never in for Caicedo. I said this yesterday morning and the night before. I would love Caicedo to be at Manchester United, but we were never in for him. We got played. They tried to play Chelsea. And this is why you've got to be very, very careful about any transfer story. Because that Caicedo story was coming in from decent journalists that we've officially approached Brighton. And now it comes out we were never in for him. So those good journalists have either done it willingly or they've had the wool pulled over their eyes. Because that was a game. It was a ploy. Chelsea are about to sign Caicedo. We were never in for him. So, look, I don't think there's no money for Frenkie de Jong. I'd rather not get players this window, Rabiot, that are not up to the levels and wait till the next window where the takeover is done and we can get the right players, says Mo. Well, look, let me just talk about Onana. The latest I have on Onana, and it can change very, very quickly, but the latest I've got on Onana is that there's definitely interest there. There's definitely conversations there, but the talks are not advanced as some would suggest. What I mean by that is that the Inter Milan negotiations are not at a point where today deal is done. There has been conversations with Onana, his agent. There is a willingness from Inter to enter negotiations. But look at Mason Mount. We were negotiating that for 5 weeks with Chelsea. So we could be at the start of weeks of negotiations with Inter Milan. We could be at the start of hours of negotiations with Inter Milan. Nobody really knows where this is going to go because Inter Milan would like to get a deal done today because of their financial fair play issues, but it's not believed to be that advanced yet. Now, what could happen is United could pick up the phone today and say our official bid is 40 million with 15 in add-ons, and Inter Milan go, yes, bang, put the phone down, let's go, here we go. it could be negotiations for a while. I think what a lot of people are doing is they're going, well, De Gea's out of contract today, so today will be the day where we get an Onana and David De Gea goes. No, not necessarily, and I'll tell you why. Juan Mata signed his extension after his contract had run out. David De Gea can do the same, and people can say, well, he can't because as soon as his contract's over, he can sign for somebody else. Yes, he can. But the best offer on the table in David De Gea's mind is to stay at Manchester United. So what David De Gea is probably going to do is he's going to wait and see what United do with the goalkeeping situation before he decides what to do. Because at the moment, he's got a huge offer from Saudi Arabia, like most people, which is you've got to go and live in Saudi Arabia, but you will earn ridiculous money. And then he's got Man United saying, we don't really know whether we want you to go or not yet. So David De Gea can just let today go, the last day of his contract, and wait a few more days and see what Man United do. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to make a decision today, and United don't have to make a decision today. And to be honest, a lot of people, a lot of good journalists, a lot of people are saying it might be that this isn't D-Day. It might be that this drifts into next week because United can be in conversations with De Gea. It's not like they're going, oh, I wonder whether David's going to sign for Saudi Arabia tomorrow. Like the dialogue between De Gea and Man United is ongoing, and apparently it's quite respectful. It's an ongoing dialogue. And United, there was even a story last night that United, if De Gea leaves, they want to give him the send-off he deserves. I don't know how they'll manage to do that. So, maybe he'll play in one of the pre-season games. I don't know, but which would be nice. It would be nice, but apparently this because it's. And we'll find out, but because the De Gea United conversation is consistently continuing, there doesn't have to be this I'm leaving and Onana's in today. So we might, I think some people think that's going to happen. I don't necessarily think it will. I think United are looking at the striker, looking at the goalkeeper and going, can we afford to get a goalkeeper and the striker we want? And if they can, I think they go forward and De Gea probably goes. If they can't, they make a decision and it has to be the striker and maybe they don't get an Onana and De Gea stays. But if they'd sold... Remember, Dean Henderson can go tomorrow as well, which is 20 million quid. So I think they'll find a way, but I think it's all about negotiations, isn't it? And I think we're negotiating with the striker and I think we're negotiating with the goalkeeper and we're trying to figure that out. And that will ultimately, hopefully, get resolved quite quickly. United are lucky they got a Mount instead of Declan Rice. Rice is massively overrated, says Brian. I'd rather have Rice, to be honest. Morning, Mark. I'm going on holiday tomorrow for the next 3 weeks, hoping for more good news over the next few weeks. Keep up the great work, says Martin. Well, here's a sobering thought for you. I think I'm right on this. I think United play their first pre-season game on the 12th of July, which means we're less than 2 weeks away from our first pre-season game, which is just mad, isn't it? When you think about it like that, our first pre-season game is less than 2 weeks away. I think I'm right in that. 12th of July, we play Leeds, I think. Love the content, says Joshua. Mount provides quality and depth, so I get it, but not over a DM. Vermael at Antwerp is good, but our scouts don't know there's a Belgian league, says James. Just on the Mason Mount deal, two things I want to tell you. First of all, we paid £55 million, and the 5 million in add-ons, whilst it does exist, this is official. This is from the club. I got told this. The add-ons, they almost feel like they're not add-ons because if they are add-ons, they're happy to pay them. So basically, United paid £55 million for Mason Mount. The 5 million in add-ons are ridiculous. They're like sustained success over years. So it could be like United win the Premier League 2 years in a row, or the Champions League, or something like that. Basically, the word from United is if they have to pay those 5 million in add-ons, they'll be very happy to pay them. So they feel that they've got Mason Mount for 55 million. Basically, if United do what they've done over the last decade, they'll never pay more than £55 million for Mason Mount. We've got to go and win things that we haven't won. So they feel they've got a good deal.